All right, everybody. Hope you all having a great day. And today we're going to be talking about the Texas Longhorns run defense, specifically versus Wyoming. Now, the Texas Longhorns run defense. It's no secret that this is not only one of the best run defenses in the nation, or should be, but it's one of the strengths of the team. It's one of our biggest strengths that we have. The defensive tackles that we have, the linebackers that we have. There's legit reason to feel optimism with our run D. Now, I know the very casual way to look at this last game is if you get rid of that 62-yard run, we held them to 2.5 yards per rush, and that's great. 2.5 yards per rush, that's elite level stuff. But we're going to dive deeper into this, and we're going to see, is there some issues that need to be fixed? And it's certainly fixable if there are issues. But with that being said, drop a like on the video if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and then comment down below your thoughts on these issues that I'm about to bring to you. They're not really. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it right now. It's not really terrible issues, but we're just basically going down and we're breaking down this Wyoming game and seeing if there are any issues to be found. Now, going by a drive-by-drive basis, first drive, it's really inflated because of a 62-yard run, so 33 yards per attempt. Second drive, 4 yards per attempt. Third drive, 4 yards per attempt. They were very consistently running 4-yard rushes. That first drive that they had were the 62-yard run. The other rush that they had was a 4-yard rush. So early on, and specifically in the first quarter, it was 4 yards every single time, and that's a problem. Like this is where, if you heard me talk about the issue stuff, this is the issue that I was talking about. You have to start better against the run. You have to. There's going to be teams that are going to make us pay later on in the year if we start out like this. If we just start, we can't keep starting sloppy. That's what it comes down to. But so in the first quarter, again, really inflated because of the 62-yard rush, 23.7 yards per attempt. You go to the fourth drive, they average 1.2 yards per attempt. The fifth drive, 3 yards per attempt. Sixth drive, 3 yards per attempt as well. Now, in the entire second quarter, they dropped down to 2.1 yards per attempt. So you started to see the Texas run defense was actually starting to stiffen up. And only 4 times did they allow a rush of 4 yards or more out of 10 attempts. That's like, this is the stuff that Texas should be doing, was doing, and really we need to see 4 quarters from this defense like this. Now you go on, so the first half it was 6 again. Granted, it's really inflated because of that the second run that they had, but they're averaging 6.43 yards per attempt in the first half, and then you go to this is where you actually start to see, and this is something that we've seen multiple times from Texas. They come out in the second half ready to rock, like they're ready to roll. And I want to say you saw this versus Alabama. That's what it was. I almost said Rice. Rice was an amazing game defensively against the run. Alabama, this happened. Right out the gate, they're rushing the ball, and they're rushing the ball well. Jason McClellan, majority of his yards came early on in the game. In the first 2 drives of the game. That was like 60% of his rushing yards or something like that. It's ridiculous. We had a really stout run defense after the first, and then you see it here again. It's showing up. We need this team to be able to come out in the first quarter and really be a stout defense, and then also smack dudes on the mouth on the offense, because this is something that you see similar on the offensive side of the ball. So maybe this is an issue with the coaching staff. They're not ready to. They're not ready to rock coming out of the gate. But going into the first drive of the second half, we hold them to 2.4 yards per attempt on that drive. That is, I believe, 10 runs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 runs. That was the only drive in the third quarter, or at least only drive with runs. But I believe it was their only drive in the third quarter. They went from 10 minutes and 42 seconds starting with the ball all the way down to almost the very end of the third quarter. So this was a huge time of possession battle. And despite us having a stout run defense, 2.4 yards per attempt, I mean, like, if you look at it, these are the runs: 6 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 1 yard, 2 yard, 2 yard, 2 yard, 2 yard, no gain, loss of 2. Like, it's really, they had to have been getting the first downs to the passing game, and it was just, these are the things that, like I said, you want to see that stuff versus the run. Now, it continued up until the very last drive. The next drive, they only run the ball once. It's a loss of 1. They run the ball twice. It's a run of 2 yards, and then a run of no gain. Like, the Texas defense, they're doing their job. Like, if you look at this, at this point, there was a point of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 rushes in a row from Wyoming, where the maximum amount of yardage allowed was 2 yards. It was either a loss of 2, loss of 1, 1 yard, no gain, or 2 yards. It's just, that's the elite run defense that we saw. And then, granted, this is where the last drive, and I'm going to reiterate, last drive. You know who's playing on the last drive quite frequently? Your backups and your depth guys. Now, we did have starters in there. I want to be very clear about that. We did have some starters in here, so that there is something that needs to be looked at this. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be too critical. I'm not going to be overly critical. I'm not going to put the same amount of criticism that I am into the first quarter, the first drive, into the last drive. But last drive, I mean, it's got to get, like, we have to finish. We got to finish the game. 10 yards, 3 yards, 8 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, a loss of 2, and then 1 yard rush. That's good for 4.9 yards per attempt. They finished the fourth quarter, 3.3 yards per attempt. Second half was 2.95 yards per attempt. So when you look at it at a drive-by-drive basis, a boom, quarter-by-quarter basis, it really does show that, man, it was really just that one big rush in the first half that throws everything off. And let me give you 1 second. We're back. And if you remove that one rush from the first half, it is a 2.86. It's 2.87 yards per attempt in the first half. Right next to 2.95 in the second half. So the 2 to 3 range, the high twos, that's where they were versus Wyoming. That's really, like, deep down, that's what the Texas run defense was. It was a better day than the numbers show, and this is why statistics, they can sometimes lie. You can mold statistics to try and fit whatever narrative you want. But I'm trying to be as objective with this as possible. That's why I didn't really remove the 62-yard rush, because the 62-yard rush counts. But when you also go and you look at how frequently they got certain yardage. Okay, so for example, how many times did they run the ball for 2 yards? Well, I'm going to go, it should actually be no secret, because if the statistics are going to sit there, and if you're not lying about statistics, they should all point in one direction. And this is something that shows a sign of, hey, that 2 to 3 yards per rush, that's right in the sweet spot for what this Texas team does, because especially versus Wyoming, the Wyoming game, when you look at that, you have 7. These are by rush amount, how many times they did it. So running for a loss of yardage, they had that 4 times. There was a loss of 8, loss of 2, loss of 2, loss of 1. Run for no gain, that happened 3 times. So no gain or loss of yardage, there's 7 runs. That's actually a good amount. That's good. That's a high percentage compared to how much they ran. You go to 1 yard runs, 3 as well. This is where I was talking about, it starts to match up with that 2 to 3 number that you saw versus Wyoming. They ran the ball 7 times and got they had the result of 2 yards 7 times. That's the most of any rushing result that they had. for one result. Run the ball for 3 yards, they ran that 3 times. Run the ball for 4 yards, they ran that 5 times. Run the ball for 5 yards, they ran that 5 times as well. 6 yards 2 times, 7 yards 2 times, 8 once, 10 once, 62 once. What's very promising about this is they had about 38 runs, 37, right in that range. I think it was 37. They count a sack, but on the ESPN, only 2 times, only twice did they run for double-digit yardage. Now the 8 is very close, the 7 is very close. Want to cut those down, but at the end of the day, we're holding them to runs of 3 yards or less more frequently than we're letting them get 4 yards or more. And then if you expand that and you go to 5 yards or more, like, that's where 4 yards is like, that's the middle point. That's the middle point. For a run defense, it's not good. It leans towards bad, but I wouldn't call it bad. And then same goes for the running backs. If you're averaging 4 yards per carry, it kind of leans towards good, but it's not bad, but it's not good. It's nothing to write home about. So for the Texas defense to really, they really did their thing outside of that one rush. But we need to see them come out the gate and, just this fire and ferocity that, this is that's what championship teams do. And like I said, Texas is not a championship team yet, but we're headed to there. We need to be headed to there. This is a team that certainly has the talent level to head to there. So we just need to keep on building, keep getting better as the year goes on. And the best way to show that you're getting better is this Baylor run defense, this Baylor run attack. It should be nowhere near anything successful versus the Texas team. If we're going to be the run defense that we should be and need to be, go shut those dudes down. But, all right, everybody, hope you all have a great day, and hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, hook 'em!